Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics. I'm Taylor Phillips, and welcome to Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker. You can also find this and all other episodes of Taylor's Detroit Sports on iHeartRadio. Straight and full Detroit and Michigan sports coverage 100% of the time. If you have any opinions on everything that's going on in the Detroit sports world, call in or send a text message live on the show at 231-429-3668. Also, you can add me on Facebook as Taylor Phillips, online at facebook.com/TaylorGatorPhillips14. Like my Facebook page, Taylor Phillips's Detroit Sports page. Join my Facebook group, Taylor Phillips's Detroit Sports Group. And follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips with 2 L's.
Episode 125. Live and recording for archive. Tonight I'm going to talk about the Pistons, Lions, Red Wings, and Michigan Wolverines basketball. First off, the Pistons beat the Knicks 97-81. Despite a bad fourth quarter, Keith Langlois writes a recap. Keith Langlois writes a recap of this one from New York. The Pistons were playing in the world's greatest arena, but they were not playing the world's greatest team. The Knicks have been a disaster even at full strength this season. Friday they played without Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, Iman Shumpert, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Samuel Dalembert. But it might not have mattered if they'd been replaced by Willis Reed, David Boucher, Bill Bradley, Earl Monroe, and Walt Frazier the way the Pistons are going these days. A team that lost 13 games not so long ago suddenly is playing with a discernible swagger. Joni Meeks said after the 97-81 win in which the Pistons led by 33 before, quote, "Winning will do that. We were struggling at first, obviously, but we've got a couple wins under our belt. Actually, make that 4. That's a couple more than a couple. And now we're just playing freely and playing with confidence. The ball gets easy to shoot, easier to pass when you win. Got to keep it going," unquote. Meeks was sizzling when the Pistons won their third straight game, scoring 34 three nights earlier at Orlando. The game before that, it was Brandon Jennings scoring 25 points as the Pistons won by 23 at Cleveland, 103-80 last Sunday. In their 4-game winning streak, the average spread is 18 points, and the Pistons are getting offense from any number of sources. When they were struggling to break 90 points in early December, it was a rare night when more than one of the two players shot it well. Jennings said when asked what's been different, quote, "Just the energy, guys trusting each other, guys talking, myself included, just taking over leadership, just talking a lot, making sure everybody's positive. Like I told Caron Butler, tonight was my night. Next night, it might be Greg Monroe's night. It might be somebody else's night. So we've got a lot of guys we can just feed off of," unquote. Jennings had another splashy game, hitting 11 of 17 shots and scoring 29 points. Jennings was good from the three-point arc, 3 of 4, but really effective getting into the paint against a Knicks team lacking anything resembling a rim protector. Jennings outscored the Knicks all by himself in the third quarter, 16-14, hitting 5 of 7 shots. His big third quarter might have been set up by 2 driving layups he hit in the last 40 seconds of the second quarter after re-entering the game with less than a minute to play. Head coach Stan Van Gundy said, quote, "He, Brandon Jennings, and I have talked. Sometimes he sits that whole quarter, then you sit the whole halftime, and it's hard to get going. He came right back in and got 2 drives to the rim at the end," I think that got him going a little bit. Unquote. Van Gundy sent Jennings to the scorer's table with almost 3 minutes to play but couldn't get a clock stoppage. Jennings said, quote, I haven't been to the free throw line in a long time, a couple games, so this is my first time actually being at the free throw line. I just want to keep attacking, and I think once Andre Drummond caught that one lob, they were a little worried. So they kept staying with him, and I had open layups. Unquote. Drummond was active early, his defensive activity enabling the Pistons to stay even with the Knicks despite a sluggish offensive start by his team. Drummond started two fast breaks that led to dunks by Monroe and Jennings, the first with a blocked shot and the second with a steal. But he also had just one rebound at the end of one quarter and played only 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, when Van Gundy rushed him and Greg Monroe back into the game after the Knicks had halved a 32-point deficit, which made his 20-rebound performance all the more jaw-dropping. Van Gundy set Van Gundy apparently sat Drummond down after the first quarter because Drummond was struggling at the free throw line. He only made like 1 of 6 at the charity stripe. Ouch. He's terrible at the line. Van Gundy said of Drummond, quote, he was all over the boards. 20 rebounds is just hard to do, and he does it like a lot. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. You just start to take that for granted, unquote. Drummond has been an anchor for the second unit of late as Van Gundy, since Josh Smith's departure has generally brought Jonas Jerebko off the bench for Drummond midway through the first quarter, and then brought Drummond back to start the second quarter with a group that includes Meeks, DJ Augustine, Butler, or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Jerebko. Meeks said, quote, we're playing well right now. We just try to come in and play with a lot of energy, but the whole team is playing well. 4-game winning streak. So we're just trying to keep it going, unquote. Meeks returned after missing the first 22 games has sparked the Pistons to a 6-4 record. 4-0 since Josh Smith was waived and signed by the Rockets. Jennings also said, quote, our second group again came on the first half, set the tone again for us. We had the lead, and then I just wanted to open up the game a little bit more in the third quarter and give us a comfortable lead, unquote. Van Gundy also added, quote, Jennings was really energized in the third, hitting shots, driving to the basket. When he's on the attack, when I think he's really good, when he's really aggressive and quick, unquote. There's a showman streak in Jennings, and the typical sellout crowd at Madison Square Garden, which remarkably stayed in their seats until the end, brought it out in him. If he was the headliner this time in the world's greatest arena, there's no telling what that means for Sunday when the Pistons host Sacramento to try to keep it going. The Kings. That's at 6 on Fox Sports Detroit and Detroit Sports 105.1. The Kings are a terrible team. Meeks said, quote, no one on this team really cares who scores or who has the hot night. We just try to ride that hot hand. Tonight it was Brandon, tomorrow it'll be somebody else. We just try to play the right way, move the ball, take open shots, and see what happens, unquote. couple comment threads on this article here. Where KSG Child commented 2 hours ago, "Where are you Van Gundy haters now?" And Dr. D posted 3 hours ago, "Man, talk about addition by subtraction. Too bad it took them so long to figure out JS, Josh Smith, was a terrible fit with this team. It will be interesting to see what they do with all that free agent money." And 6 replies to his comment. Slam dunk. The slam dunk segment. The Pistons continued their offensive revival since waiving Josh Smith, breaking the will of a shorthanded Knicks team with a 33-point second quarter barrage in winning their 4th straight game. The Pistons shot 55% through 3 quarters in taking an 82-52 lead. They led by 33 early in the 4th quarter before J.R. Smith, who finished with 22 points, made things a little more respectable for the Knicks. No one has been more noticeably affected by the removal of Smith than Brandon Jennings, who scored 29 points despite sitting out the entire 4th quarter. Jennings hit 11 of 17 shots, making 3 of his 4 3-point attempts. Andre Drummond had another dominant rebounding game, too, grabbing 20 to give him 2 straight games with 20 or more. He has 12 such games in his career. One behind Dwight Howard, who has the most 20-plus rebound games in NBA history before reaching age 22. Drummond won't be 22 until next August, so he's got 50 games left to He's got 50 games left to surpass Dwight Howard. The free throw segment. The Pistons won a 4th straight game for the first time since December 1st through 2nd, 2013, and their first 3-game road winning streak since December 16th to the 23rd of 2013. But they also embark on perhaps the most arduous stretch of the season. 10 games in 16 days that will limit them to 2 practices. Stan Van Gundy said the current turnaround started with 3 straight productive practices during a 4-day break in the schedule before Christmas. He says a young team, the Pistons have the third youngest starting 5 in the NBA, behind Utah and Minnesota, is especially challenged when practice time is scarce. The Pistons start a stretch of 4 games in 5 nights on Tuesday in San Antonio and hosting Sacramento on Sunday. The three-pointer segment, finally, to cap it off. The Pistons came into the game having made 41 3-point shots over the last 3 games, a franchise record for a 3-game stretch. The second unit looks especially deadly from 3, especially when Stan Van Gundy can throw Kentavious Caldwell-Pope back in with that group at small forward with Jody Meeks at shooting guard, and recently acquired Anthony Tolliver at power forward. Meeks, Tolliver, and Caron Butler all knocked down triples in the first half, and the bench was largely responsible for the Pistons outscoring the Knicks 33-18 in the decisive second quarter when the Pistons hit 5 of 7 from the 3-point line. From behind the 3-point line, the Pistons again cracked double digits in 3-pointers, hitting 13 of 33 with 7 players making at least one. The first quarter was even. But the second quarter, the Pistons started taking control, and they kept rolling through the third quarter. But they took the foot off the accelerator a bit in the fourth quarter. They allowed, oh my goodness. They allowed 39 points in the third quarter. Including most of J.R. Smith's 22 points. Because their defense simply labored. But their offense did just enough to bury the Knicks and hold on for a 97-81 rout win. And Stan Van Gundy was trying to get the defense back together. It was all Knicks for most of the entire fourth quarter, but not at its entirety. So again, the Pistons will head back home to the Palace of Auburn Hills. Pistons will head back home to the Palace of Auburn Hills and play the Sacramento Kings Sunday at 6. On Fox Sports Detroit and Detroit Sports 105.1. They are 9-23 right now. Kings entering at 14-19. The Pistons allowed 29 points. Correction here. I thought they allowed 91, but my mistake. It was 81. I knew all along it was 81. I got a little dazed. I was zoning out a little bit. But overall, the Pistons played well, like they should have. Now let's move on to the Lions here. Got other topics to fit in to this podcast. You can call in at 231-429-3668. 3668. You can also text at 231-429-3668. Moving on to some Lions football. Practice report. Nick Fairley returns to practice from January 1st, 2015, New Year's Day, at 3:55 p.m. Published by Tim Twentyman of DetroitLions.com on the Detroit Lions mobile app, the official Detroit Lions mobile app. The new year has brought newfound hope that Detroit Lions defensive tackle Nick Fairley could be returning to action very soon. Fairley returned to practice Thursday for the first time since injuring his right knee on October 26 in a win over the Atlanta Falcons in London. Fairley told DetroitLions.com, "It feels really good just being able to get out there with the guys and run around and feel the energy. I feel great. Right now we're not making any decision, anything, just taking it day by day, unquote. Fairley said getting his win back and getting in game shape is the real hurdle at this point. He said, quote, "That's going to be my big thing, really, getting my win back and basically getting it into a little bit of a game shape. I know I'm not going to be able to really just get into game shape, but I'm trying to work to get there," unquote. Head coach Jim Caldwell said earlier this week that it would be a miracle if Fairley played in the playoff game in Dallas. That's what other sources have touched on earlier today. His return to practice on Thursday, however, is good news for a possible return to game action next week in Seattle if the Lions are able to get by the Cowboys. Defensive coordinator Terrell Austin agreed that Fairley was not yet in game shape, and they have to see where he has closer to Sunday's game before making any determination on playing status. Defensive coordinator Terrell Austin said, quote, "We'll see how far he comes and shoot. Maybe a miracle happens," unquote. Fairley had a brace on his right knee during the individual drills portion of practice open to the media. He was listed as limited on Thursday's practice report. Starting right guard Larry Warford missed his second straight practice because of a right knee injury he suffered in last week's loss to the Green Bay Packers 30-20. Darryl Tapp also missed practice Thursday for the birth of his child. He was listed as non-injury related on the practice report. Receiver Calvin Johnson, who was also limited Wednesday with an ankle injury, was upgraded to a full participant in practice Thursday. You can catch the Lions and Cowboys at 4:40 p.m. on Fox in the NFC Wildcard Divisional Round. The winner will play the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. If the Lions, think about that, if the Lions beat the Cowboys and get their second playoff win in 56 years, they might have another chance to redeem themselves by limiting their mistakes from last Sunday with a huge blowout win at Green Bay. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a very smart and manipulative quarterback, but the Lions need to be more aggressive on their tackling. They need to be more executive. They need to execute those tackles more. Just wrap them up and take them down. Period. And make sure they're clean, too. Good thing the Lions have Ndamukong Suh ready for Sunday's game at Dallas, since he won his appeal. Just got word that former Michigan State Spartan men's basketball player Draymond Green for the Golden State Warriors totals a triple-double at 16, 13, and 11 in a 126-105 win at Golden State against the Toronto Raptors. Stephen Curry added 32 points and 12 assists. According to ESPN.com, Green finished with 16 points, 13 assists, and 11 rebounds. Just want to get an update real quick. Now let's move on to the Red Wings. My favorite part of the podcast, because almost nobody in the Detroit sports media covers the Wings like I do. Bill Roos, the managing editor for DetroitRedWings.com, writes in a headline notes, Wings prepared for grueling task. From Vancouver, the Red Wings dropped the puck on a New Year's Saturday night at Rogers Arena, beginning the first 2 of 6 game road trips. I keep thinking 5 by mistake. It's 6. During a 2-month stretch that features 17 of their next 23 games on the road. These will be their first 6-game road trips since 2008-2009, when they played 6 road games in a row from January 12th to 27th, 2009, compiling a 2-2-2 record. Though the team's task before them appears to be a grueling one, the Red Wings, who are in 3rd place in the Atlantic Division with 49 points, are upbeat about their mission. Defenseman Nicholas Kronwall said, quote, "It's a good time to go on this trip, come together even more as a team. I think it's a great opportunity," unquote. Nobody has played more home games than the Red Wings this season, which certainly has helped them compete near the top of the Eastern Conference. The first half of the season was very kind as the Red Wings built a 13-4-6 record on home ice. Home cooking has also allowed the Wings to average 2.91 goals per game while surrendering just 2.04 goals per game at Joe Louis Arena. However, the complete opposite is true on the road, where this young team is still learning how to stockpile wins away from home. Head coach Mike Babcock said, "No question, 100%. We're trying to figure out if we're good or not. That's the biggest thing to me. To be a good team, it's about finding a way to look after the details every single day, putting your work habits before your skill. If you do those things, you have a chance to be good in this league," unquote. The Wings have played a league fewest 15 road games and have been outscored 41-40 during that stretch. But in recent years, they've had some success in Western Canada, posting a combined 7-2-0 record in their past three-game swings through Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary. Goaltender Jimmy Howard said, quote, I think we always enjoy coming out here to Vancouver. It's such a beautiful city, and it's a great hockey city, so it makes for a lot of fun. It's going to be 3 games here where it's going to be a tough stretch. You just have to play that simple hockey on the road, not try to be too cute, just play a simple game," unquote. The next 3 games will give the Red Wings a hodgepodge of Western Conference talent from the Canucks and Calgary and the Oilers, and the Flames, who are tied for 3rd place in the Pacific Division to Edmonton, who own the league's worst record. But either way, the Wings won't take anyone lightly. Kronwall said, quote, "They're good teams. Vancouver's been playing really well so far. They seem to have gotten things together from last year. Edmonton obviously is having some struggles, but it seems like it's always tight games, and Calgary has been one of the biggest surprises this year as a hard-working team. But we want to make sure we start on time and play our game. That's the biggest key. We don't mind coming out there, absolutely, especially coming together as a team. You spend even more time with each other, dinners, things like that, lunches after practices. I think everybody enjoys it," unquote. Long road trips can also be good team-building exercises for some of the younger players. Center Riley Sheahan added, chirped in, quote, "You definitely get to spend more time with your teammates compared to when you're at home. Obviously, guys' families aren't with them, and here the main priority is to be around the team. Hockey is the main priority, so it'll be fun to spend some more time around the guys. Unquote. In Vancouver, the Red Wings are 6-2-2 in their past 10 games at Rogers Arena, with half of those games going into at least overtime, including 3 that were decided in the shootout. Saturday's game brings the season series to a close. Detroit won the first meeting 5-3 on November 30th at Joe Louis Arena. Line shuffle. Well, Howard quoted, "They have skilled guys up front, and they're back to playing the way they used to when the Sedin's really getting into the cycle and rotating down low. It's going to be a tough task for RD, Henrik and Daniel Sedin." Unquote. Line shuffle. Babcock is uncertain with how he plans to deploy the Red Wings line combination against the Canucks. Tomas Tatar moved to left wing on Pavel Datsuk's line at practice Friday, while Henrik Zetterberg was at left wing on Sheahan's second line, and right winger Gustav Nyquist moved from the third line to the second line. Highs and lows. In a span of 3 days, Howard went from facing a season high in shot on goal at Boston 44 to a season low Wednesday against New Jersey with 13 shots on goal. What was the difference between Monday and Wednesday? Howard said, quote, "If you notice, we really did a really good job with our F3 all night long, and when we have 3 high like that, it just seems like teams can't really get through the neutral zone on us. It seems like when you have 3 get lost, you know teams can be fast, and you know they're getting in on us. I think it's just very important, and I think that's where we executed really well the other night against New Jersey," unquote, on New Year's Eve. The Red Wings defense has done magnificent. The Red Wings defense has done magnificently in their own zone, holding teams to just 27.3 shots per game, which is 3rd stingiest in the league. Detroit finished number 14 last season, allowing 29.3 shots per game. The Devils have been held to 19 or fewer shots 7 times this season, twice by Detroit. Season series against the Canucks by Brian Hedger, NHL.com correspondent. Red Wings shuffle lines prior to playing Canucks. The Red Wings benefited by reuniting Datsuk and Zetterberg on the top line in the first game against the Vancouver Canucks. Datsuk scored 2, and Zetterberg got 2 assists in a 5-3 win at Joe Louis Arena. Lyndon Vey led Vancouver with 2 goals and assists after a 35-minute power outage delay. Red Wings team scope. This game starts the first of 2 6-game road trips for Detroit, which deflated the New Jersey Devils 3-1 on Wednesday. Defenseman Jakob Kindl elbow practiced Friday but isn't eligible to come off injured reserve until Sunday. Babcock said Howard will start, but the line combinations aren't settled. Tatar already moved to left wing with Datsuk, and Zetterberg was on the second line with Nyquist moving from right wing on the third line to the second line. For the Canucks, a 3-2 loss Thursday at home to the Los Angeles Kings ended a string of 4 games with at least a point for Vancouver, that was overtime, which is 3-1-1 in the past 5. According to reports from practice Friday, at forward Zach Kassian will return to the lineup. He hasn't played since November 25th, a healthy scratch Thursday. Kassian skated on the third line in practice. If he returns, Vey likely will be a healthy scratch for the first time since Kassian was injured. Multiple reports Friday since it said the Canucks put veteran forward Tom Sestito on waivers. Let me try to fit in Michigan basketball here. From the Michigan Insider, tomorrow at Saturday at 2:15 on BTN and BTN to go and BTN.com. All-time series records. Saturday's game will mark, from mgoblue.com, Saturday's game will mark the 151st meeting in the all-time series. Despite winning the last 4 straight against Purdue, U of M trails in the all-time series 84-66. The Wolverines hold a 24-51 all-time record at Mackey Arena, but have won their last 3 games in West Lafayette. U of M has a 40-33 record in Ann Arbor and a 2-0 mark in neutral site games. Last season, the Wolverines swept both games with a 75-66 win at Chrysler Center on January 30th, 2014, and a thrilling last-second 77-76 overtime at Mackey Arena on February 26th the same year. Last year's thriller at Mackey Arena, down 76-75, Michigan called timeout with 2.9 seconds left in overtime before attempting one last shot for the win. Caris LeVert lobbed the inbound pass from the sideline to Glenn Robertson III, who is in the NBA now, in the opposite corner, and he drove to the basket and put up a shot off the glass that rolled around the rim and dropped in as the buzzer sounded. The Wolverines did not lead until the beginning of overtime and trailed by as many as 19 in the first half. What's on tap for Michigan? The Wolverines begin a stretch of playing 4 of their next 6 games on the road, including 3 of their next 4 over the next 2 weeks. Saturday's game at Purdue will be the team's only meeting of the season. It features 2 of the Big Ten's most prolific three-point shooters. Zach Irvin leads the Big Ten with 2.85 three-pointers per game, while Purdue's Kendall Stevens is second at 2.64. Both have the most trays in the conference with 37. What's new with the Wolverines? Aubrey Dawkins is the first Wolverine player to score 20 points other than U of M's Big Three. Caris LeVert, 11 careers, Zach Irvin with 3, and Derek Walton Jr. with 1. Irvin has made at least one three. Irvin has made at least 1 3-pointer in every game this season. In fact, with the end of last season, he has made 1 in his last 16 straight games. He has at least 1 long-range bucket in 41 of 50 games. Irvin also leads U of M with 37 long-range baskets. He has had 9 games with 3 or more trays, with a season-best 4 on 4 occasions. The last was a 4 for 11 performance against Syracuse December 2nd. Irvin has grabbed 5 or more rebounds in 4 of his last games, including a career best tying 7 against Coppin State on December 22nd. Has Irvin. He averages 3.7 on the season. Michigan has led in rebounding by guards Caris LeVert with 5.2 and Derek Walton Jr. with 4.4. With his 19 points against Illinois, LeVert snapped a 3-game drought of double-figure scoring. On the season, he now has 9 double-digit games, with 4 of those 20 or more points. He leads U of M with 15.2 points per game. Walton has posted 25 assists, 4.2 average per game in his last 6 games, and has a total of 42 on the season. The last 6 games have doubled his season output after collecting 17 in his first 6 games. Spike Albrecht had a career best 6 rebounds against Illinois December 30th. His prior best was 4. Since entering the starting lineup 3 games ago, Ricky Doyle has scored in double figures in 2 games, including a career best 16 against Coppin State, the Eagles, December 22nd. His other is 13 against the Illinois Fighting Illini. As a starter, Doyle is shooting 12 for 16, 75% flat from the field. A look at Purdue after opening the 2014-15 season by winning 6 of his first 7. Purdue has lost 4 of his last 7 to sit 9-5 overall. After trailing by 11 at halftime, the Boilermakers rallied in the second half to win their Big Ten opener and snap a 3-game losing streak. Purdue plays with a 10-man rotation as Purdue plays with a 10-man rotation and has 4 players averaging in double figures. The Boilermakers are led by Kendall Stevens, who averages 11.2 points. A long-range specialist, he leads Purdue with 37 triples as 68% of his shot attempts are from long range. In addition to Stevens, Purdue is led by a pair of 7-footers, senior A.J. Hammonds, who averages 10 points flat, 5.6 rebounds, and 2.8 blocks per game, and freshman Isaac Harris, who averages 11.1 points and 5 rebounds and is shooting per game, and is shooting 62% flat from the field. Vince Edwards gives Purdue 4 double-figure scores with his 10.2 per game average. And finally, Purdue leads the conference in block shots with 5.9 per game and is 4th in assists with 16.6 per game. The Boilermakers average that many as they have 6 players with 20-plus assists on the season, led by John Octius' 36, 2.6 average per game. So that fills up all the time for Taylor's Detroit Sports episode 125. I will be back on Sunday night after the Pistons take on the Kings from Sacramento at the Palace at 6 o'clock. Stay tuned. Thanks for downloading and listening to episode 125. I will talk to you again Sunday night before my 11 o'clock Blog Talk Radio podcast. Till then, this is Taylor Phillips on Spreaker and iHeartRadio saying TTFN, ta-ta for now.